Fiancée insists I cut off my parents, struggling with the decision. We have been in a relationship for 9 years, are engaged, and have been living together for 5 years. We are financially independent. I work full-time, while she works part-time with her father. She wants me to completely cut ties with my parents, believing they manipulate me and are responsible for many of our arguments. She sees 3 main issues. 1. I don't confront them directly. She says I should tell them to their faces what kind of people they are. In her view, they are full of themselves, always boasting. For example, this phone of mine is really good, or giving unsolicited advice like, why don't you try doing it this way? 2. She believes they manipulate me. She interprets small things, like my dad saying, are you leaving already? Why not stay one more minute? As manipulation. Even though I usually respond by saying, no, we're leaving, she still sees it as them influencing me. 3. I didn't immediately choose her. When she told me to choose between her and my parents, I hesitated. She sent me a message saying, I will not be a second choice. And I will not be an option that you don't choose immediately without hesitation, no matter what you lose. This wasn't the first time she gave an ultimatum. When my parents invited us to a birthday lunch, she demanded that they stop asking because we would never go to lunch, only to visit. When I asked if I could go alone, she said no, I was to stop going to family lunches altogether. End of discussion. Although she has mentioned cutting ties a few times during heated arguments over the years, she still interacted with my parents, visited them, and even prepared gifts for them. We see them about every 2 to 3 weeks. For over 3 years, we haven't gone to family lunches, even for birthdays or holidays. If a birthday happened to fall in the same week as a holiday, it caused major issues for her if I wanted to visit my parents sooner than the 2 to 3 week period. These visits were short and uneventful, just sitting and talking. My parents rarely asked for help, except twice a year when they physically couldn't mow their lawn due to health issues, multiple spinal fractures, diabetes, a heart attack, and back surgery. Even then, she reluctantly agreed to help. I haven't visited my parents alone since I moved out. My past and my parents today, when we were still living separately and in the first months of our relationship, I once got a call from my dad telling me to put away my camera lenses that I had left on the table because we hadn't agreed that I could leave them there. I went and moved them, then went back to her, and she still brings this up as proof of their control over me. I agree this was some kind of control, and because of that, my actions against that behavior later in the relationship became more visible. I also once told her I felt emotionally distant from my parents growing up because of their authoritative style. Maybe this made her see them in a worse light. Yes, they had more control over me in the past, but since moving out, they haven't, or at least I haven't seen it. They never speak badly about her, and they treat me normally. My dad still likes to act like he knows everything, but nothing extreme. Meanwhile, she works with her father every day. They talk over Viber almost daily or every other day. We frequently go on trips with her parents and visit their vacation home every 6 to 8 weeks, staying for 2 to 3 days. I have a great relationship with her parents. My compromise and her refusal, I told her that if she doesn't want to see my parents anymore, she doesn't have to. I also offered to visit them less. But she refuses any compromise. I must completely cut them off, and she won't discuss alternatives. This argument has been ongoing for 3 months. Recently, my dad had a birthday. I visited him alone for 1 hour and 15 minutes, 3 days later, to show her that even birthdays or holidays aren't a priority for me. That alone was enough for her to want to break up with me. During our relationship, I told her my parents didn't mean much to me. At the time, I truly believed it, not just because I felt I had to, but also because she probably would have left me otherwise. I told her many times she is my only priority, and I've proven it many times. But because I didn't instantly say, okay, I'll cut them off, she sees it as proof that they matter more than she does. The truth is, I don't care about them as much as before, but not to the extent that I want to erase them completely. Whenever I try to discuss finding a solution, she refuses, saying she won't change her mind. It's either her or my parents. If I even mention that they are my parents, she gets even more frustrated. I've always respected her wishes, and when she still maintained some level of contact with them, I thought she was doing it for me, out of care. But now, she wants this for both of us, not just herself. How do I balance this? Any suggestions? Edit 1. To add context, after 2 months, she suggested a compromise, only talking to them on the phone for birthdays and sending holiday greetings via SMS. It is a compromise, but honestly, considering the drastic demand, it doesn't feel like a real compromise to me. Final update, 1 year later. A year ago, we briefly broke up and I moved out for a week. My main goal was to show her that this wasn't the right way to solve our problems. There was no real compromise. She insisted that I either cut off my relationship with my parents or we would break up. She said that if I showed her she was my main priority, I could occasionally see my parents and we could move forward. Her father got involved, and I asked him for advice. After speaking with her, he suggested that I temporarily hide my contact with my parents so she could see that our relationship was my priority. Based on that, I came back. I believed that if I showed her clearly enough that she was my priority, even though I already felt she was, things would improve. During that time, I tried to maintain the relationship and reflect on possible issues with myself and my parents. This was around May. For her, I agreed not to see my parents. However, I secretly called them once every week or two and visited them every third week. I felt ashamed for lying, but in hindsight, I'm glad I did, and you'll see why. From her perspective, my main responsibility was to push my parents aside so she could feel that I cared about her feelings, even if I didn't fully understand or agree with them. At the same time, I started individual therapy. However, because my first therapist was a woman, I had to cancel. She couldn't tolerate any women around me, regardless of age. I then asked her multiple times if we could go to couples therapy, but she insisted we didn't need it because we were fine. After 3 to 4 months, I kept asking where we stood on this issue and how we could resolve it. The relationship seemed better because she believed I wasn't in contact with my parents, but in reality, I was speaking to them more, not less. By August, nothing had changed. Whenever I tried to discuss a solution or asked if I could see my parents, I could no longer lie. She repeatedly said I could see them only once per year, which I couldn't accept. One day, I reached my limit. I asked again, and she told me that if I didn't agree, I could leave. So I did. But my feelings for her didn't just disappear. I moved into an apartment, and we didn't speak for a month. During that time, I went back to therapy, with the same female therapist, to understand what I was doing wrong, what was wrong with my family dynamics, and why nothing I did ever seemed to be enough for her. After a month, we started talking again. I tried to understand her perspective better, but her reasons remained the same. My parents were too cocky, they influenced me too much, and they complained a lot, especially about my father's health. I tried to find a reasonable compromise, for example, that I could see them without involving her at all. She wouldn't need to attend birthdays or even a funeral when the time came if she didn't want to. Eventually, in November, her final compromise was that I could see them 6 times per year for 30 minutes, talk to them on birthdays or holidays, and once per month otherwise, even though they lived only 20 minutes away. I couldn't accept that. My therapist also pointed out that these demands were unusually strict. From a therapeutic perspective, my relationship with my parents seemed normal. Through therapy, I also realized I had issues with boundaries. I often felt guilty saying no, although I had been prioritizing my girlfriend for years, so every time it was no if she didn't agree with it. During therapy, the topic of borderline personality disorder, BPD, came up, not as a diagnosis, but as a possible explanation for some behaviors. This was the first time I had heard of it. I researched it extensively, books, videos, podcasts, and realized that regardless of whether she had it or not, she experienced emotions very differently from me. We started communicating more again. She asked me to switch therapists because mine was a woman, so I changed to a male therapist. I focused on understanding her emotional experience as much as possible. In December, I told her I would visit my parents for my birthday. We didn't speak for a week afterward. The more we talked, the fewer concrete arguments she had. She mostly repeated that she simply didn't feel okay when I had contact with them. I told her we couldn't continue like this and that we needed couples therapy. In January, we started. After 6 sessions, nothing changed. When the therapist asked how she felt when I contacted my parents, she said it felt like a heavy rock in her body, that she hated me most when I did it and loved me most when I didn't. During that time, I still secretly visited my parents, helping them with practical things, spending quality time, and having honest conversations without fear. We talked about boundaries, my fears of saying no, and what could improve our relationship. We were still separated but trying to work things out. Then, one normal day in February, my mother called early in the morning. "Son, paramedics are resuscitating your father. Please come home." I called my girlfriend. She said, "Go if it's an emergency." I drove there, my mind racing. Sadly, my father passed away. I told her the news and returned briefly to our apartment. She offered help, and we talked for 2 hours. Then I went back to my mother and grandmother, whom my girlfriend also didn't accept. After about an hour, she messaged me, "Are you still there?" I said yes, that I would probably stay with my mom that night. Her response was cold at first but soon turned into anger. "I can't believe you'd rather be with your mom than with me. You need your mommy." That moment changed something in me. I realized that no matter what I did, it would never be enough. Even in a situation like death, empathy only lasted until her feelings were triggered. I didn't invite her to the funeral, although her mother came secretly. I tried to explain things to her parents and even suggested a book to help them understand her emotional responses. After a year of struggle, I lost both my father and my relationship. But despite everything, I feel stronger than ever. It's still hard sometimes, but I don't regret lying to maintain contact with my parents. That time allowed me to build a deeper relationship with them, especially now with my mother. To anyone in a similar situation, take care of yourself and your loved ones. Understand that people can experience emotions very differently. And sometimes, even when there is love, letting go is the healthiest choice.